options. Always be open to the best standards, because you might not be able to see it immediately if you're just too focused on your own positions. But if you try to understand the other parties' interests and positions and standards, then you'll have a broader perspective, a broader understanding, and uh, a better solution to propose to the other party. And lastly is to never yield to pressure. Okay, never yield to pressure, only to principle, which means that if the other party seems to be adamant na, right, and they won't budge, and can offer no objective basis for their position, then don't agree to a further negotiation. What does this mean? Let's say, for example, the other party is just adamant, talaga mapilit lang sila na hindi, ito talaga yung gusto namin, but they're not explaining why, they're not explaining the benefit for them or the benefit for you. Ano ba yung mutual gains ninyo, right? Then don't be pressured to agree to the terms. Ang importante sa inyo is maintindihan ninyo also what's in it for you. Maintindihan nyo rin how will it be how will it benefit the greater good, right? Even if you have to, let's say, accommodate them in the end, can at least maintindihan ninyo that the decision is for the greater good. That it is the best decision to make in that negotiation. All right? So that is for objective criteria. And then the next part is the bargaining and closing, right? So we are already done with these three. Ito na yung pinakita natin kanina, right? The introduction, information sharing, option generation. In option generation, like, you can spend more time in option generation, because this is now where you can discuss again with the other party, find solutions for your mutual gains. The next part is bargaining. Okay, so bargaining, this is now where you really negotiate already, and highlight already your viewpoint. Okay, there are three types of bargaining. So there is soft, hard, and principled or distributive bargaining. Let me share with you the difference between distributive and integrative bargaining. Soft, distributive, hard, and principled bargaining. Okay, so in soft bargaining, this is when the participants might be friends. Big sabihin, in soft bargaining, this is focused mainly on building relationships, building and maintaining relationships. Hard bargaining is focused on your position, right? You're focused on winning. Principled bargaining is focused on the merits of both parties, or again, mutual gain. So ito rin pinakaiba nila. So since soft bargaining is focused on relationships, most likely the participants are friends. That's why it's important for them to save the relationship. Hard bargaining, since the parties are focused on their position, participants are considered to be adversaries. And in principled or integrative bargaining, participants are problem solvers. The thing about principled bargaining, you're focused on the problem, not on the people. Okay. For distributive or for soft bargaining, the goal is agreement. Both parties should agree on the terms amicably. Kumbaga, no hard feelings. Right? Ang goal naman ng hard bargaining is victory. Na kailangan manalo tayo whatever happens. The goal of principled bargaining naman is a wise outcome that is efficient and amicable. Meaning, it's a solution wherein both parties will still maintain the relationship, but at the same time, the problem of both parties will be addressed. Okay, so hindi lang isa ang nananalo in this in this type of bargaining. Again, in soft bargaining, they make the concessions to keep peace. We'll talk about concessions in a bit. In hard, demand concessions as a condition of the relationship. And principled bargaining is they separate people from the problem. So again, we'll talk about concessions in a while. In soft bargaining, trust is important. So there is a level of trust between the two parties. In hard bargaining, this is when the parties seem to distrust each other, but that's why they are focused on their own positions only. And in principled bargaining naman is actually independent of trust. Hindi na iniisip sa principled bargaining kung iniisahan ba ako, no other party. What they're interested in is the best solution for the problem. They focus on the problem, not on the people. In soft bargaining, the parties make offers. In hard bargaining, the parties tend to make threats. And in principled bargaining, the parties explore interests, right? In soft bargaining, one of the parties might accept or will accept that there might be some one-sided losses to each agreement kasi nga nag-accommodate tayo eh. No? And then for hard bargaining, this is when they decide when parties decide one-sided gains to each agreement. But in principled bargaining, they will have options for mutual gains. In soft bargaining, there will be they will insist on agreement. In hard, they will insist in their position. In principled, they will insist on objective criteria or solutions with uh, that has an identified objective criteria. And in soft bargaining, they try to avoid the contest of will. Again, more on accommodation. While in hard bargaining, you try to win a contest of will. But in principled bargaining, they reach a result based on standards that are independent of will. Again, more on the problem, not on the people. And lastly, soft bargaining tends to yield to pressure kasi nga you want to keep the relationship. And in hard bargaining naman, this is when you want to apply pressure so that the other party will bend and will say, okay, sige, we will do your way. In principled bargaining, it yields to principle, not pressure. It yields to what makes more sense. What seems to be the best option, the best solution for both the parties' problems. Syempre, ideally, we would want to have a more principled bargaining that will happen between you and between you and the other party. So as much as possible, focus on mutual gains, focus on solutions for both you and the other party. Now, as much as possible, walang madedehado and that the relationship will still be maintained. All right? Questions, clarifications at this point. All right. So later on, when you do the next role play, keep these in mind. No, keep particularly this yung principled bargaining. Keep this in mind when you are going to discuss the role play with the other team. Ayan, I gave away na a clue. You'll be working together already with the other group. Okay? Because we're going to talk about concessions na. Yan. So what are concessions? Concessions are trade-offs. Hindi lahat sa negotiation or not everything in a negotiation process where one party or both parties will get what they want. There's what we call the trade-offs. no, which are expected in negotiation, as the negotiating parties move towards an agreement that is mutually satisfying. That's why I asked you, di ba? In the first place, yeah, that's why I asked you to write down your BATNAs. And and understand what your ZOPA is, because that this will help you highlight or identify what are the trade-offs in a negotiation process. Big sabihin ng trade-off, 'di ba? Ano ba yung kapalit? I might gain something, I might lose something as well, right? So there are four strategies to in making concessions. First and foremost is to label your concessions. When you say label the concession, you have to let the other side know that what you have given up, if you have given up something, is costly. Right? So kung meron kayong i-give up dun sa position ninyo to come to an agreement, you have to let the other party understand how it means to you, how much it means to you. Like how much it costs you to give up that part of the agreement. And indicate also the benefits of this concession. Yes, this is what I will lose. This is what I'll be losing, but at the same time, this is what I'll be gaining. Like for example, yung sa bibili ng bahay, 'di ba? Um, I say, let's say for example, the seller's ZOPA is 5 million, right? Let's say ang original na ZOPA um, ng buyer is 4.8. Kasi kaya pala, and then naintindihan or na figure out that during the discussion of the interest, the reason why the buyer's budget is only up until 4.8 million is because they want to still do some more renovations in the house kasi second hand na bahay, 'di ba? But if the seller still insists na 5 million, then maybe the concession that the buyer will make is, sige, I will buy it ng 4.8, but, and then there are other conditions. If that's the case, when you're already identifying or when you're already coming up to the bargaining and to the closing part of the negotiation, make sure that you highlight what you have given up and how much it means to you. Oh yeah, na I will not I will agree to the 5 million, but I hope you understand that it will probably take me another 2 years to have some parts of the house renovated, for example. But at the same time, at least I'll be able to get this house, which is in a good location, or um, I'll be able to move in immediately this year, etc., etc. Okay? And then make sure that you link your concession to your original offer. Okay? So that's what it means by labeling your concession. The second one is demand and define reciprocity. Ano ibig sabihin na demand and define reciprocity? This is the expectation or the expectation is that you will get something from the other side in return for your concession. So for example, sige, I will yield to the 5 million, bibilhin ko na yung bahay ng 5 million kahit hindi ko pa muna mapa-renovate kasi yung additional na 200,000 napang re-renovate ko, sana madi-defer na lang yan. Pero pwede bang kayo na magbayad ng capital gains? Yan. So, yun naman yung when we say demand and define reciprocity. So, but again, you win some, you gain some, you lose some, you gain some. Diba? So, demand and define reciprocity. But of course, demand tactfully. Yan. Do not be aggressive, because if you are aggressive, dito nagkakaroon ng emotional reactions na, no, in a negotiation process if respect is forgotten. So still be respectful, still be tactful when you're demanding for a concession, right? And then make contingent concessions. That's the third strategy. When you say making contingent concessions, if the other side doesn't agree to reciprocate, then add conditions. All right? For example, sige, if you don't want me to pay for the capital gains, then I will be paying the amount to yung ganitong mode of payment. So maybe I'll be able to pay it in 10% muna, and then in the next year, this is how much I'll be paying every month, for example. So that I can already include you capital gains since you don't want to pay for the capital gains anymore. Yeah. And then, lastly is to make concessions in installment. Big sabihin, have a list of possible concessions. Dito na papasok yung BAT na. No? Have a list of possible concessions or trade-offs, but don't say everything, no, to the other party immediately. If you are going to give everything in one go, if you're going to give everything in one go, the other side might still feel na meron ka pang ilalabas, no? Pero sa totoo, nailabas mo na lahat. So just give your concessions or trade-offs one at a time. One at a time. Right? Because if again, babalik tayo dito eh. If one concession doesn't, or the other party doesn't accommodate the concession that you demand, okay, then you can make contingent concessions, then babalik kayo dito, babalik kayo dito, babalik kayo dito, until you come up to an agreement wherein hindi ka makakaramdam na dehado ka, right? But at the same time, you can also say that, okay, I've benefited from this agreement. Right? Questions, clarifications regarding concessions. So in questions, clarifications? Anyone? All right. If none, remember that this is where the actual negotiation happens now, because you have your position. You should have already identified your mutual gains, nagkaroon ng brainstorming, and then na-highlight na rin yung objective criteria for each proposition. And lastly is now you are now trying to negotiate the final terms and conditions before you finalize the agreement. Okay?